Good morning. Welcome to the video. Today's topic is master your frequency in the new timeline. That is the title for today's video. As you're coming in, please go ahead and like the video. If you've got questions, drop them in the chat. But again, our title is master your frequency in the new timeline. So, today's video has to do with the changing times. So, what you've probably noticed is that reality has shifted quite a bit. So, remember back in 2020 when all that stuff ended, and then they're like, we're going to have the new normal. The new normal. Well, you may have noticed that the new normal is anything but normal, okay? So that all kind of wrapped up the way things used to be. And now we're in a very different framework of reality. And so during this time period, in where we're at right now, there's a lot of shifting and changing that's going on. And so if you've been feeling like the way that you used to do things no longer works, or that you can't really predict where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing, there's some good reasons for this, and we're going to talk about that today. So this video should help. Now, we always talk about manifestation on this channel, and so this is about manifestation because the same rules about manifestation always apply, no matter where you are in the universe. Okay, so you have to have intention, you have to detach, you have to go with the flow. Those are constants, no matter where you are. However, depending on where you are, the current may be a little bit different. So when we talk about things like going with the flow looks like one thing if you're in a stream. It looks like another thing if you're on whitewater rapids. Okay, it looks like another thing if you're in the ocean. It depends on where you're at as to what the flow is going to look like. And so something that I've been receiving that's very important to understand is understanding what flow means right now. And so I have some important stuff to share with you guys, and it kind of ties into something I've been being asked by a lot of you. A lot of people recently have been asking me about astrology. So you guys know I'm very into astrology. I think I could be a professional astrologer, quite honestly. That's how much I know about it. But the message that's been coming through to me is very much an astrological message. And so I want to share this with you guys because I think understanding this message will help you navigate this timeline very well. Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. I won't go over your head with astrology. I'm going to keep it easy to understand like I always do. But that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today is astrologically what's going on this timeline and how you can use that information to manifest the kind of life results you want to have rather than feeling tossed around like what's going on all the time. Okay? All right, so again, as you guys are coming in, please go ahead and say hi. Nice to see you guys. I see Luis is here. Sue is here. Stella is here. Island Joy is here. My lovely assistant Mary is here. Good morning, Mary. Picket Music is here. Pri, I see you've got a question for me. I'll answer that one in just a moment. Thank you. Rainbow Traveling Yogi's here. Natalie's here. Adrian's here. Good morning, Opulent Beauty. ASMR Tingled Pink. Guillaume, Snow Sparkle. Nice to see you guys. Hello, 1111 Ellis on Instagram. Nice to see you. Simukai03. Do I still experience ascension symptoms? Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would say I haven't been having the traditional ones. But we're going to be talking about what's been changing. All right, nice to see you guys. Very good. All right, again, today we're talking about master your frequency on the new timeline. Okay? So again, things have shifted, things have changed. Collectively, we're all working in a different kind of framework. So like I mentioned before, you can kind of look at their framework before as maybe we were on a river, okay? Now you might be able to say that it's more like whitewater rapids. It's going faster, okay? It's going a lot faster. And so your strategy with manifestation, your strategy with staying detached has to accommodate how things are moving. All right, so like I said, this is kind of an astrology lesson. You don't need to know a whole lot about astrology in order to follow along. But perhaps you guys have heard of something called the Age of Aquarius. Okay, have you heard about this before? So the ages are really about 2,000-year periods in astrology. So they're very, very long periods. And for the last 2,000 years or so, we've been in the age of Pisces. Okay, age of Pisces. And so the age of Pisces meant that the framework was generally governed by the sign of Pisces. Now, Pisces is the last sign on the zodiac. And I also have, just for fun, I have some cards from the tarot deck with me today because I do find the tarot deck to be fun as well. If you did not know, there are actually 12 cards in the tarot deck that respond directly to the astrological signs. Okay, and so I'm going to use these to just kind of show you some imagery because I think it helps tie in the point a little bit. All right, so for the last 2,000 years or so, we've been in what's called the Age of Pisces. Okay, and I'll hold up the card in the deck that represents Pisces. This is the moon. Okay, now Pisces is a sign of illusion. It's a sign of dreams. It's a sign of being asleep. Okay, so as you can see within this card, we've got a very prominent moon sitting in this deck, and it looks like it's asleep. It's nighttime. Okay. And so when we think about Pisces, that's kind of what we think about. We think about dreams. We think about fantasy. We think about being lost in the illusion. And you could very much say, if you look back, like when I was younger, before we got into this new age, that's kind of how it was. Everyone was kind of asleep. Most people were. They didn't really know what was going on. Okay. But as we've been progressing up into this current time period, we've been switching into the age of Aquarius, which is very different energy, okay? So Aquarius is represented by a different card in the tarot deck, and I got to cover up part of her because she's naked, okay? But this is the star card, okay? I'm going to come back to this and show you guys this as well. This is the deck. This is the card in the tarot deck that represents the sign of Aquarius, okay? And we'll talk about this a little bit. Now, fun fact about me, I am a Sun Aquarius, so I was born in January. January, February babies are often Aquarians. My chart ruler is Mercury. It's also in the sign of Aquarius. And I'm a South Node, 29-degree Aquarius, which means nothing to you if you don't know much about astrology. But if you do understand astrology, what that should tell you is, as a soul, I've kind of mastered that sign, okay? I may not have mastered all the signs, but that one's one I really, really understand. And so I really feel that this particular video is a good one for me to make because as we're moving into the sign of Aquarius, the Aquarian energy is the energy that you guys are working with now. You're no longer paddling in a Pisces river, okay? You're on the whitewater rapids of Aquarius. And so this is an important thing to understand because whenever we shift zodiac signs, the energy changes. And depending on how you're moving, you may be moving with the current or against the current. I hope that makes sense. So I want to talk a little bit about what the sign of Aquarius means for the time that we're in. I think you guys are going to see some parallels as to what's going on in today's framework. So the sign of Aquarius rules a few different things. It rules friends and communities. It rules technology and innovation. It has to do with social revolution. Aquarians are known for being very detached, and it's the sign of wish fulfillment. So this again is the card for Aquarius in the tarot deck. And it's represented by the star. Okay, star is representing wish fulfillment. So this is actually a really great time to be alive, guys, because this is the card of active manifestation, believe it or not. Okay, so when we look at Aquarius, this is the sign of manifestation. And isn't it interesting that as we've been transitioning into this new age, so many people have learned about the law of attraction. So many people have learned about manifestation. It's very common knowledge now. Why? because we're in the age of Aquarius. Okay. So it's a good time to be alive because you guys are going to find that during this time period, it's actually going to be easier for you to manifest, provided you understand what kind of river you are in. I hope that makes sense. So, as you guys have probably been noticing, technology really is a big thing. Okay. So, as we've been moving out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, and again, these are 2,000-year periods, so this has been going on, but you've really seen this rapid shift in technology. That's because we're in the age of Aquarius now. Okay. The other thing that's very dominant about the sign of Aquarius is that it is an air sign. Okay. So there are 4 different kinds of signs. We have air, fire, water, and earth. Okay. Those are the 4 different kinds of signs. And Aquarius is an air sign, meaning it's a sign of intellect. That's what air responds to, or that's what it has to do with. So this is a time where information and ideas are very, very, very big. Okay. I'm going to talk more on that in a few minutes, but this is an important thing to understand, is that you're in a time of information, technology, and ideas. And that's something that you want to flow with rather than resist. So sometimes when people are talking out there, they want to talk about things going back to the way they used to be. I want things to slow down. Well, if that's what you want, you're going to find that you're resisting the current. It's going to be much easier for you to accept that you are in a time period that is very dominant on technology, ideas flowing, detachment, social revolution, all things that relate to the sign of Aquarius. So that's the big theme, but in a moment, we're going to niche down and explain it on a more practical level. But first, let's answer a couple questions here, because I saw a couple come in. We got one from Pri. Thank you, Pri, for the super. Pri says, "Hi, Andrea. I work in the medical cannabis industry, and in my country, there is currently a government crackdown to deregister practitioners. How do I ensure avoid being deregistered so I continue my work long term amidst this witch hunt, as I love helping patients?" Okay. So always the big thing to understand is we always want to go with the flow rather than against it. So that's one of the things that we're talking about today. When you see stuff like this happening, where people are coming for others, okay, we agree to participate in it or not based on whether we choose to respond to it in fear. That's the big thing. Okay, so somebody who is afraid of being caught or afraid of being, taken down is much more likely to get caught or get taken down. So the big thing about this question is deciding in your own mind that this doesn't matter. This is not that big of a deal. I can do whatever I want. I'm Teflon. That's an idea I like to think about for myself personally. I'm somebody who's kind of learned how to just not get in trouble ever. And so that's an idea I like to play with, is that I can always get away with things. I can get away with whatever I want. So that might be something that you want to play with. But the big thing is, don't feed into the fear about it or the idea of a witch hunt. Okay. So I would instead veer into what you mentioned here towards the end. I love helping patients, because if you notice that the work that I'm doing is helping and assisting the community, that is one way that you can use, as we're talking about today, the energy of the sign of Aquarius to assist you. Okay, so again, one of the dominant things about the sign Aquarius is that it has to do with communities and it has to do with helping people. Okay, it's not a particularly ego-driven sign. Rather, it's a sign that's built on helping. And so if you use that energy, I'm helping people, I'm connecting, I'm providing to the group, and you dial in that energy, you're going to find that that's easier energy for you to play with rather than defending yourself energy. I hope that makes sense. But again, the big thing is, don't feed into the fear. I wouldn't be following any of that news. I wouldn't be following any updates on it. I wouldn't be talking about it with the people that I know. That's not to say that if it comes up, you got to freak out about it, but try to find more emphasis on the idea of what you're doing that's helping your patients and making that the dominant focus. All right, good luck. Next question we've got here, got another super from Cheryl. Thank you for the super, Cheryl. Cheryl says, Hi, Andrea. How can everything be going along great and then all of a sudden they're not? I'm experiencing terrible side effects from my doctor adjusting my type 2 diabetes medication. And last week, my dog died unexpectedly and she was only 6 years old. Well, I'm sorry about your dog. I am sorry about that. I know that that's difficult dealing with the grief. Remember, you're allowed to grieve, okay? So go through that however you need to. But it can happen suddenly. That's something we're going to talk about too in the theme for today's video, but I'll touch on it a little bit now in relation to this question. The faster that things are moving, the easier it is to get knocked off. Okay, so a lot of times I think there's this false conception that if you're in a high frequency, that's a lasting thing. And that once you kind of achieve that, you can always kind of stay there. But in reality, your focus can always be driven upward or downward. Okay. And particularly in fast moving times, it can be easier to go negative quickly. And so if something kind of throws you off a little bit, it can be easier to tunnel down into frequencies where you start attracting things that you don't want to be attracting. And this can be very unsettling for people that perhaps you've had experiences manifesting and doing very well, and then all of a sudden you lose your mojo and it feels like you just take a nosedive, okay? The thing I want you to tell you about this, though, is that the kind of energy that we're working in now, you could go up or down very quickly, okay? So if you find yourself in a situation like this, where suddenly there's been a lot of bad news, I'm not manifesting the way that I want, realize just as fast as you went down, you can go back up. And you can do that at any time. The big thing at this point is to just kind of pause, relax, and get grounded and get centered. Okay, so again, if we use the analogy of the whitewater rapids that perhaps we're on right now, maybe your boat got tossed, okay? Take the boat out of the river, dust it off, calm down, have a drink of water, go to the bathroom, do whatever you gotta do. When you're ready, get back in the river. So what I mean by that is don't keep tunneling ahead, doing when things are on a downward spiral, because you'll just keep hitting those rocks. Instead, you want to compose yourself, get back to baseline, and when you're ready, then start moving forward. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and again, sorry about your dog. I know that that's challenging. All right, guys, if you haven't yet, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe to me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and if you have not yet, turn on your notifications. I do lives like this every single week, and I love it when you guys come along with me. In addition, if you are new to my work and you have not yet, please make sure to take my manifesting test. Okay, I have a 5-minute manifesting test where you can prove the law of attraction to yourself, put something out and watch it come back. And to take that test now, you can go to manifestingtest.com. Again, that's manifestingtest.com. The link will be in the description of the video. On Instagram, the link will be in the link tree of my bio, but that is a free 5-minute manifesting test you can take. That is the business for now. All right, guys, again, today we're talking about mastering your frequency on the new timeline. And the message that I feel called to talk to you guys about today is this idea of astrology, because we've entered into the age of Aquarius. Now, some astrologers say it hasn't happened yet. Some say we've already been in it. But something to understand is if you're looking at 2,000-year periods, that crossover time is very long when we're talking about 2,000-year cycles. Okay, so I really do feel that we're firmly in Aquarius now based off of the things that I see going on. And it's very important to understand that as you guys are manifesting and working on creating your realities, that you honor this particular energy, because this is the energy that you are working with now. And it is the river that you've got to flow in, okay? So let's talk a little bit further on this. Here's something else to understand. We are currently in a higher frequency than we were, okay? So as linear time progresses, as consciousness expands, we naturally start to rise. And so as we've risen, something to understand that is the higher that the collective frequency is, if you veer off of it, you're going to feel worse, okay? So this is kind of a paradox, because sometimes I think people think that when the collective consciousness goes up, things are just going to naturally be easier and better for everyone all the time. Well, overall, yes. But if you fall out of frequency, you're going to feel it more. Okay. If you guys know who Abraham Hicks is, she talks about this. She'll say it's the best of times and the worst of times. The higher our frequency rises, if we fall back into old patterns, the worse it feels. Okay. So the reason why this is important to understand is that as we've been shifting into a new time frame and increasing our frequency, if we're not keeping up, we're going to struggle. Okay. It's a very important thing to understand. So one of the big takeaways here is attachment and attachment to the ego. And this is something that I've noticed as we've been moving into this new time period. That's an important thing to understand. And it's also something that we can see from the sign of Aquarius. But as we move into a higher frequency, it's very important to detach from the ego as much as we can, okay? This isn't to say that the ego is a bad thing. This isn't to say that you need to reject it totally. But what you're probably starting to notice is that ego-related things are becoming less celebrated, okay? Because really the sign of Aquarius really isn't about that. It's not about that. So a few examples of this. Just a few years ago, you probably noticed that things were really much more geared towards materialism, things being as big and beautiful and awesome as they are. But one thing that I'm starting to notice is that people are becoming more interested in what's real rather than what's fake. Have you noticed this? So even if we're looking on perhaps, let's say, YouTube. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos, like I think you guys probably do. Maybe a few years ago, the types of videos that were really, really popular were the videos that were very well produced, very stylish, perfect lighting, perfect hair, perfect whatever. Today, what I'm starting to notice is that the videos that I seem to be gravitating towards and that seem to be doing very well are videos that aren't necessarily like that. They're videos where people are more real. They're more authentic. A lot of times they're just on their camera in their car. And those are the things people are gravitating towards more. Stylishly speaking, I remember a few years ago, and people still do this, but contoured makeup and the big eyelashes and the very long nails, that was very, very big. Now I'm starting to notice that people are kind of gravitating into more of a natural, more authentic look. This is something that also represents the sign Aquarius. So something I want you guys to notice again about this card is that the figure in this card is naked, okay? They are naked. And the sign of Aquarius is not a sign of ego attachment. It's a sign of ego detachment. It's a sign more of authenticity. And so this is another thing that you guys want to be leaning into during this time period. If you're trying to fit in with everybody else, if you're trying to people please, if you're trying to do everything right, you're going to find that that energy is not going to work for you as well as stripping yourself down and being more vulnerable, more open, and more yourself. Now, that being said, that's always been good energy to work with. But the timeline, the frequency that we're in right now really kind of requires that. One thing that you also might be noticing within the public eye is that a lot of public figures are starting to fall. Okay, so there's been like the whole Me Too movement and people rebelling against government and strong authority figures suddenly losing their footing and falling. This is a sign that ego attachment is something we need to avoid, because the more that you attach into your ego, the more vulnerable you are of falling at a frequency level on our particular timeline. So the reason why I'm saying this is that I think for a lot of people this time period, they're worried about what they're going to be doing, what their lives are going to become, etc. When you are charting out your life and where you're going next, it's very important for you guys to be thinking about what authentically you are. Not what everybody else wants you to be, not what you think is going to get you the most views or the most popularity, but who you actually are. That's the essence that's going to perform the best during this time frame. And it's going to be very well promoted because this is very much a dominant sign of the sign Aquarius, is this idea of ego detachment. Okay, so ego detachment has always been important. Right now, it's more important than it was a few years ago. So this is something else that you want to be paying attention to. Proof Rock, thank you for helping with my social anxiety a few weeks ago. I started concentrating on myself in situations, and you manifested 2 hangouts with female friends. Good job. I remember that question. Yeah, so the big thing with that one, guys, is when you have social anxiety, a lot of times you are focused more on, do the people like me? Are we getting along? Or do they like me? Do they accept me? Instead, focus the energy in on yourself, what you like about yourself, and noticing what you like about people. Not do they like me, but what do I like about them? Very good job, Proof Rock. Thank you for letting me know that that worked out for you. Carla asks, hi, Andrea. I visited a busy, messy antique store yesterday. It had great old items, but I felt heavy energy and sensed an evil eye from a lady inside. What to do? Walk away. Yeah, so if you guys ever get that kind of sense that you're walking into something dark or something, it's not like this is the world's most evil person. It's really just a sign that this is not my highest frequency. I would be better moved in a different direction. So it's good that you're feeling that, okay, and that you notice that. A lot of times people just kind of shove that stuff aside. Sometimes we read too much into it and we turn it into like a dark horror story, and we don't need to do that. But just noticing that there's something about this place that feels off to me, so I'm going to go somewhere else, and let that be enough. Okay, we don't need to investigate it any further, because if we investigate it further, what we're going to do is start to reinforce the idea that there's evil energies, people coming out after me, and we don't want to do that. We simply just want to honor, this doesn't feel right now. Let me go somewhere else. Lita, if we try to be aware of the fact that everything is an illusion during the day as much as possible, is it accelerating and quantum jumping? That's a good question. I would say yes. And I think that is why we're having these framework shifts so quickly. So it may feel more like you're hopping around now more than just this straight, easy, linear time. And a lot of that's because people are becoming way more conscious of their thought and what's actually going on, and that they're able to make shifts quicker. And more people are doing that, which is accelerating it. Okay, good question. Yeah, again, we're moving out of that age of Pisces energy where we were just stuck in the dream. That's not what's going on anymore. Now we're in the sign of Aquarius, which is the sign of active manifestation. Okay, so when everybody's out here actively manifesting, things are going to change pretty quick. We have to accept that. Okay. All right, a little bit more business here, guys. You may have seen on the chat, I do have coming up this week. If you guys have been looking at this, where'd it go? I have got the Magnetic Appeal program will be going on sale this week. So for those of you who are interested in improving your love life, that's the program that's going on its best price of the year sale this month. It's going to be going on sale, I believe, on Thursday, and it will be for 50% off for 1 week only. So this particular program is my love attraction program. And so it's good for a variety of situations, not just people who want to manifest a specific person, although if you do want to manifest a specific person, it can be used for that. But it's really geared for anyone who's having problems within their love life. So if you struggle to feel worthy of attracting a partner who treats you well, this is a good program. Perhaps if you've been attracting people who are detached or avoidant or toxic or who don't treat you well. This is a program that will help you resolve that so you can start attracting people who treat you well. If you want to develop that magnetic it factor where you draw in lots of potential partners, this program will help you with that. And even if you're currently married or in a long-term marriage or long-term situation where maybe the spark is fizzled and you're just not enjoying it so much anymore, you can use this program to reignite the passion within your own relationship. So again, this is my love attraction program. It only goes on sale once per year. It will be on sale this week, but if you want to go ahead and sign up, I will send you the discount code when it goes live. And so you can do that by signing up at the link in the description. Link again is in the link tree in my bio on Instagram, but make sure to do that because this is the last time I'll be reminding you to sign up to get that discount. And that's the last sale of the summer. No more sales for a little while. All right, let's come on back here and get back to it. Again, today, guys, we're talking about mastering your frequency on the new timeline. Okay. So again, the age of Aquarius means that it's ruled by the sign of Aquarius, and the sign Aquarius is an air sign, okay? So that's an intellectual sign, and it also rules technology. And so this obviously corresponds with the uptick in AI, okay? And so one thing that you guys are going to notice is that, again, this is the manifestation card. It's the wish fulfillment card, and it also ties into technology. And so it's a very interesting thing that's going on right now, which is that your thoughts can be reinforced much quicker right now than ever before, okay? Air signs are fast-moving intellectual, okay? That's what they are. They're fast-moving intellectual energy. And you've always created your reality based on your thoughts. But now, what you guys have all been noticing over the last few years is that you think something and there it is. And particularly when it comes to your cell phone and using your devices. Okay, so you guys are all starting to notice that, hey, I clicked on a video of a bulldog and now I'm getting all these bulldogs everywhere. This is ridiculous, okay? Or I wrote this one question into ChatGPT and now it always talks to me in this particular way. It's a very important thing to understand, which is that manifestation is actually faster in this framework, and your belief reinforcement is actually quicker. Now, this is a very important thing to understand, which is that reality is becoming very much an echo chamber. And you may be noticing this again when you guys are on your devices, if you're messing around with AI or if you're just scrolling through your feed. Everything that you're thinking is becoming more and more dominant in your reality. So what does this mean? This means that during the age of Aquarius, which by the way is about a 2,000-year period, so we need to just accept this, okay? This is what it is. During this time period, you have to understand that your beliefs are going to be more reinforced. So you have to have more discipline about your belief structures and what it is that you're feeding into and what it is that you're buying into. So it's very, very important, guys, that when you guys are on your phones, when you guys are scrolling through the internet, you want to make sure that you are leaning into content that makes you feel good. You're asking questions that relate to positive things. The more that you start to focus on things like there's this problem over here or this thing that I don't like, the quicker you're going to manifest that into your reality. Because again, this is a faster moving stream that we're in right now. So I'm telling you guys this because I think it's very common for people to get stuck on their phones in particular and get driven down a cliff pretty quickly. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that. So I want you guys to be mindful of that. Your beliefs are very, very important right now. Now, you don't need to go through and change all your beliefs. That's a lot of work. I'm not going to tell you to do that. But what I do want you to do is to monitor your feelings, okay? If you are on your phone and something doesn't feel good, go look at something else. Stop going down the doom scrolling because it's taking people down very, very quickly. Again, we are in the age of Aquarius where there's fast moving intellectual energy. And so your thoughts are being manifested much more quickly and your negative beliefs are being reinforced much more quickly. You don't have to get rid of all your negative beliefs. And I always tell you guys this, you don't have to get rid of them. But what you can do and what you should be doing is focusing in on things that make you feel good, things that are positive, things that bring happiness to your life. Those are the things I want you guys to be focusing in on, because those things can blow up and be replicated too. Okay, a lot of people don't understand this, and that's why during this time period, a lot of people are dealing with stress and anxiety and frustration because they're going there with those thoughts. They don't even realize it. Okay, so be mindful of that. It's a very important thing to understand during this time period. It's always been important, but right now it's much more important, okay, because things are moving much quicker. Thanks, Louise, for the super. Ooh, that's a big one. Thank you, Louise. Louise says, it's awesome how everything has been aligning for this new era. First the internet, then the blockchain, and now AI. Everyone connected, broken money issue fixed, and humanity working just for fun and not just to survive. Everything is changing in real time for us. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Don't be afraid to let go of the past, guys. Again, this is a time period of wish fulfillment. That is what this card is about. It's wish fulfillment. This is the manifestation card. This is the time where you can manifest everything that you want. That being said, you got to go with it. Okay, you got to go with it. And yes, it does correspond. You saw technology. A lot of people started talking about the age of Aquarius like in the 70s. And you started to see technology kind of inching up. But as we've transitioned into the age of Aquarius, I mean, that's where we're at. Okay, that's where we're at. And it's a sign that we are manifesting the things that we want. So it's good stuff. Good time to be alive. Oh yeah, an empath coach, Anna. Yes, Pluto and Aquarius too. That's a good point. I think that's a good one to bring up. Pluto went into Aquarius not that long ago. And I would say, like, once Pluto went into Aquarius a few months back, it was like, yeah, that's it. Pluto takes about 300 years to traverse the zodiac. So it's been 300 years since Pluto's been in Aquarius. And so it's a very big Aquarian time right now, for sure. Flower of Life says, Aquarius is in your 5th house, opposite your Leo sun in stellium. Your sun is in Aquarius with wow. Okay. So you have Aquarius in the sign of Leo in the Leo's house, which would make Leo in your Aquarian house. Yeah. You really have that axis. I do too, because I've got Moon in Leo and I've got North Node in Leo. So I have a bit of that, but you really have that axis active. So you're feeling it. Oh, we got a super here from Monica. Thank you, Monica. Monica says, what do I do when men keep standing me up for dates? They ask me out, then disappear and don't show up. There's some anxiety. There's some anxiety there that's leading into that. So now when a guy asks you out, you're worried. Is he going to stand me up? Is he going to stand? And then he stands you up, right? So there's a few things that you can do about that. One thing is I might switch up the strategy of how we're doing this, what kind of dates you're going on, what dates you're accepting. Do it in a different way. Okay? So I don't know. So if the guy asks you, when are you free? And you always tell him it's Friday night. Try Sunday afternoon or a different time, because we want to break the pattern so that you have a new pattern to approach this at. So a different way of dates or a different way of getting ready. Shake up the process of getting ready for the date so it's a different process. Another recommendation that I have for this situation is always have other plans. So something else to do, something else as a backup, so that in your mind, as that date approaches, if you start to worry, well, that's okay. I can just go to that concert with my friend, or I can just go meet so-and-so out here. Have something else there so that you don't get attached to that person showing up for the date. The other thing is the idea of focusing in on the guy is showing up. So if he has been calling you, or if he has been texting you, or what he has been doing, this is a guy that shows up for me. He's been showing up for me. He's been showing up for me. Now he's more likely to show up for you on the actual date. Okay? Good question. Denise, thank you for the super. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Again, today we're talking about mastering your frequency on the new timeline. Oh, okay. So again, we're in the age of Aquarius now, guys. It's a big change from the way things used to be. Aquarius, again, is an air sign, which is a sign of intellect. But there are three other kinds of signs. Okay, so there's an earth sign, a water sign, and a fire sign. Okay, so like Aries, Leo, Sagittarius are the fire signs. Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio are the water signs. Virgo, Capricorn, Taurus are the earth signs. And they govern different elements. Okay, so this is another important thing to understand. So we are in a time that is dominated by air. Air corresponds to thought. Thought's like in the air. It's there, but you can't grasp it. It moves quickly. That's what air represents. That's kind of the dominant kind of frequency of what's going on. That's why you guys are glued to your phones thinking about stuff all the time, okay? Not necessarily doing things that are practical, but thinking. So an important thing to understand is that balance is always important, okay? And so, for you guys, if you ever look at your natal chart, so we had somebody talking about having stelliums. Like if you've got a lot of something in one area of your chart, you may find that it's important that you balance in other areas because it's very easy to overdo it in one particular area. And so this is another lesson I want you guys to understand about this time period is that right now we're in an air dominant time, which means that it's going to be much easier for you guys to fixate in the land of thinking, and also neglect at the same time other areas that are important. So fire is about taking action, and earth is about practical, being grounded into the material world. Water is about emotion. And so what I'm trying to drive at here is that during this time period, you want to spend some time doing things other than just thinking and scrolling on your phone because there's already this overdominance of thinking energy that's going on. In order to ground your manifestations into material reality, you actually have to be participating not just in the thought plane, but also in the material plane. So again, if we bring up the star card here, okay, notice what she's doing. She's standing on earth. She's pouring water. She's taking action. She's taking action, fire. She's got water, emotion. She's standing on earth. Okay? You got to do this. She doesn't have her head up in the clouds. She's not doom scrolling on TikTok. Okay? You have to be doing all of those things. And so I'm telling you guys this because something that I've been noticing within myself and with other people as well is that the land of thinking is becoming a little too dominant. Okay, so like the kids say, you got to touch grass and you got to focus on the other elements of being human. So one concern that I think I've heard, I have heard quite a few people talk about is that, as AI has occurred, what does that mean for us? Are we obsolete? It's smarter than us. It can do our jobs, blah, blah, blah. What about us? Well, AI is not human, okay? Human beings have access to those other elements. AI is just air. That's all it is. But you also contain earth, you contain fire, you contain water. And so what this means is during this time period is particularly important for you guys to spend time communicating with real people. Connection, again, is part of Aquarius. Aquarius is about groups of people. It's about connection with the group. So you want to be spending time with people. You want to be spending time in more emotional domains and in more active domains. It's very, very easy and seductive just to get sucked into the land of thought without actually grounding into the physical world. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And that's really the main reason why I wanted to bring this lady out here. Because if you look at her, she's an air sign, but she doesn't have her head up in the clouds, does she? Okay, she's here on Earth. Very important thing to understand. Don't get sucked too much into the thinking. Okay, there's a dominance of that right now. You don't need to be doing that as much. It will come naturally. Oh, should I read tarot cards during the live? Maybe I'll do that one day. Fairy Girl says, hi, Andrea. I've been messing up my cortisol levels with doom scrolling lately, so I turned off all YouTube suggestions. It can really suck you in fast. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like that with everything. I think a lot of people are a little frustrated with that, where no matter where they go, it goes there, okay? Because your thoughts will just immediately start to project and create. So yeah, getting yourself out of suggestions, putting the phone down sometimes is good. Anonymous browsing is good. But yeah, be careful with that. It's harder than usual not to go there. Denise, I am upset by all of these deportations that are going on here in LA. I participate in weekly protests in my community. Is that being resistant? It is. However, what we're noticing is there are more protests, right? And so Aquarius does rule social revolution. And so that's something that we can come to kind of accept and not stress out about too much, is that people are going to organize. They are going to try and get reforms. That's part of that sign. What I would be focusing on, positive changes rather than pushing against, if that makes sense. So if we can look at this in a way that what I'm doing is I'm promoting freedom, that's good. Okay, that's in positive alignment with social reform. If instead we're going more in that witch hunt energy that we were looking at before, that's a more negative focus. So there's nothing wrong about organizing with people at this time. There's nothing wrong with social revolution. That's part of this sign. But be mindful about how you're engaging with it. Come at it from a place of I'm empowering people rather than I'm fighting some kind of evil. Because again, our thoughts are what create reality. If we're fighting from a place of there's evil, we're actually actively creating more of that in our reality, which isn't what you want. So instead, you want to be focusing on I'm empowering people, I'm helping people. This is for the good, and having your energy in that domain. Understand, guys, that any situation can be perceived from its light side or its shadow side. So you can participate in an event like that perfectly fine, provided you're on the light side of the coin, then you'll get the energy out of it that you want. Hope that makes sense. Great question. Sean is a Sun, Aquarius, Leo, Moon with a Cancer. You and I are so close, Sean. I'm a 29-degree Gemini ascendant, so I was almost a Cancer ascendant, but I'm Aquarius, Sun, Leo, Moon. Super close. I have not heard of the Sedona method, Anton. Now I got to go look it up. Have you guys heard of this? Dominique says, thank you for this topic, Andrea. I'm really interested in studying astrology, but find it very in-depth and complex. Where did you start? Ooh, I I started when I was 8 years old reading the newspapers. So back in my day, when you looked at the astrology things in the news, I was like, what is this? Then my husband-to-be got me a book in my early 20s that I read, and then I just went from there. So it is very complex, very in-depth. It is not as simple as, hey, if you're an Aquarius, today will be a good day. It's not, it's very, very complex. So if you want to get into astrology, I think celebrating the complexity of it is important. And the idea that I can always learn more and there's always more to discover. If you can get into it that way, you can really get into the complexity of it. But it can be overwhelming if you just want a simple, straightforward answer for how does astrology work? Paula says, wow, I was planning to ask if I was into tarot. Yep. Yep. I'm not as good with the tarot as I am with astrology. Full disclosure. But I know quite a bit about tarot too. Snow Sparkle. People need to quit freaking out about AI. AI is a great thing. It's a tool for sure, like everything else. I'm glad you brought this up. Okay. AI is a tool. I think one thing that's important to understand about this is that it's a thought tool. And I think people have become over identified with their idea of being intelligent and their thinking. And so they feel like AI is taking their identity. Okay. I think what's helpful to remember is that it's not human. It doesn't care. It doesn't have emotion. Maybe someday, but not today. And so, it can be used to alleviate your need to think so much. You don't need to compete with it, but you're still allowed to think. Okay. All right. So I think a lot of people are worried about it taking over. If you're really concerned about it taking over, lean into, like I said, those other elements. Lean into your action, lean into your practicality, lean into your emotional side, because those are things that it doesn't do. Okay. A lot of Sagittarius is here too. Let's see what else we got here. All right, so to recap, today we're talking about master your frequency in the new timeline, okay? Again, I want you guys to remember that if it feels like the old way of doing things isn't working, there's a reason for that, okay? Essentially, we're not in the same kind of framework that we were years ago. All right. So before, we were governed by a different time period, the time period of Pisces, which is ruled by really dreams and illusions. So when people are talking about everyone's asleep, they got to wake up, everyone's asleep, they got to wake up, that's because we were moving out of the sign of Pisces into the sign of Aquarius, which is the sign of more active manifestation. Okay. Remembering again that the age of Aquarius, you got to go with this stuff. So the people that are fighting against AI are going to struggle more. This isn't to say that you need to surrender to AI or anything like that, but accept it and appreciate it. Don't fight against it, because the age of Aquarius is about technology, and it's about intellect. It's about thinking. It's about wish fulfillment. And AI is the perfect example of that. You have a thought, you ask it a question, boom, there it is. Instant manifestation. Okay. It did all the thinking for you. Accept it and appreciate it for what it is. You're going to move with this energy much better. Okay. The other thing that we talked about is that you need to be mindful during this time period about ego attachment. Okay. Again, remember with this card, this lady is perfectly naked. She's vulnerable. Okay. I don't mean in a scary, sad way. I just mean you got to start stripping yourself away from the idea of trying to be something for somebody else or putting on an act. Okay. During this time period, people who are more authentic and more themselves are going to do very, very well, because that's what Aquarius is really more about. It's about being detached. Okay. So it's more important than it used to be. Okay. Remember that. Another thing about this time period is, again, it's very much an echo chamber. Because we're moving in a much faster time, things are being manifested much more quickly, which means that your positive beliefs are being manifested quickly, but your negative ones are too. And so you guys are definitely seeing this online, where you're getting into these doom scrolling events, where you're just getting sent down these tunnels where you think a negative thought and then boom, it just gets worse, worse, worse. You need to be mindful of that. You don't need to eradicate all of your negative thoughts, but I do want you to use your feelings to navigate yourself on your devices and in life in general. When you get those bad feelings, somebody was talking about a bad feeling earlier. When you get those bad feelings, turn it off, go somewhere else, search for something else. You don't want to be giving attention to these things, because it's very easy for this stuff to get out of control during this time period. Okay. And then finally, the last thing that we talked about was this is an air time. So air is about thought and intellect. There's already a lot of that. Okay. So very important during this time period to ground yourself in the other three elements. So earth is about practicality. It's about the day to day. Okay. It's about building things. Fire is about taking action. Okay. So being active. And water is about emotions and connecting. So those three things you want to be a little bit more focused on, because it's very easy to just get sucked into your mind and never actually come out here on earth and realize your manifestations in the tangible 3D world. Okay? All important stuff to understand. Danny O'Trope says, I admire you so much. I don't know how to stop having resistance to a manifestation that I've been waiting for 5 years. I focus on other things. I don't know if I should give it up. Focus on other things. You don't have to give it up, but give up trying. So a lot of times what you'll notice is that when you finally kind of forget about something, that's when it manifests. So that's what you want to do. You've already done plenty of focusing. If it's been 5 years, you've done plenty of focusing, okay? The intention is out there. You asked for it. The thought's been placed. But because you're trying, you're resisting it. So this isn't about giving up your dream. It's about giving up focusing on it, okay? Allowing yourself to go do something else and fully detach from it, because that's when it comes. It can also be helpful to tell yourself, it's okay if this doesn't come because I'm going to do this, this, and this. Make it okay that it doesn't come. Go do something else, and that's when it's going to show up for you. You don't have to keep trying. In fact, trying is what's preventing it from showing up. Oh, I got to mention this, guys, before I forget. I've been talking about this, and I actually just started it. I get lots of questions. A lot of you guys are entrepreneurs or you work in sales. I get lots of questions from people that want to make sales, or they're real estate agents, or they own their own business. I get lots of questions about sales. So I finally decided to go ahead and start working on a program I've been thinking about working on, which is going to be called Sales Magnet. Okay, so if you want to understand how to manifest sales into your business or into your career, and to do so easily, this will be the program for you. So this one's not going to be ready until September, but I am putting the opt-in link in now. So if you'd like to get updates when that program goes live, I will send those to you. And then in addition to that, when that course launches, as always, I launch them at their low price of 50% off. So I'll send you that code as well. But this program is really going to be good for people who perhaps you feel awkward about selling, or maybe you sell sometimes, but your results are kind of inconsistent. Maybe you worry about hitting your commission numbers each month, or you worry if your business is going to keep on moving. This program is going to make you confident at attracting customers and clients, and confident in selling them and closing them so that money comes to you easily. So again, that program will be coming out in September. But you can sign up now. The link is in the link tree. No, it's not in the link tree in my Instagram. I haven't put it up there, but I'll put it up there soon. You can check back in maybe 20 minutes, it'll be up. If you are on YouTube or Facebook, the link will be in the description of this video. And I'm also sure that Mary is dropping that in the chat. So that one's coming soon. Again, that one's called Sales Magnet. Again, if you were interested in getting the Magnetic Appeal Love Attraction program for its 50% off price, that will be going on sale this week. Make sure to sign up for that one. Again, the link is in the description for this one, and that one is in the link tree on Instagram. That program is going to be good for anyone who's having problems in their love life. So if you're having a hard time not nailing down your specific person, or if you're married but your marriage has not been working out the way that you want, if you've been attracting the wrong kinds of people, if you don't feel worthy of love, any of these issues will be addressed in this program. So go ahead and sign up for that one if you want the coupon code when that one goes live this week. It's only on sale this week, and it will not be on sale for 1 more year. In addition to that, I will be back on Sunday of next week. So thanks so much, guys, for coming along. Ooh, I got one more super here. Thank you, Snow Sparkle. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yep, I'll be back on Sunday next week with another video. So I hope to see you guys there again. But thanks so much for joining on this one. Thanks so much for the questions and for the supers. And of course, I look forward to seeing you guys